Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Barnes.
And I'm Mark Langley.
Hi Mark, your set of questions today are all sort of an oddball set of questions. I'm going to get some tips from you on how to get back on the saddle after you've had a fall, how to manage a pony mare that kicks other horses, and also how to desensitise a horse to a ball and racquet. So we'll start straight away with the question on how to get back on the horse after a fall. It's from Ira, and she has a thoroughbred that she hasn't ridden for quite a few months. He reared up because he got a fright from a tractor. Now she's obviously concerned about getting back on. She says that he is nice. It's just she's not quite sure how to do it, so that I suppose she has a bit more confidence. Do you have any tips for her to do that one?
Well, I guess the only tips I've got, instead of if it's your confidence, is you set up things that you can sort of know what the horse is going to do when you get on them. So I'm just going to go through a few tips that you kind of do if you get on a young horse. So make sure that when you ride for a little bit until you get your confidence and your horse's confidence back, you're in a fairly safe area and you're not near any, other horses going to over distract your horse and stuff like that. Now, if your horse has got a reactive nature that it did rear up under that sort of pressure, then you do have to realise that there's, I guess, a lot of work needed in understanding how to follow reins and feeling. You do a lot of that from the ground, because I have a feeling there's probably also still a bit of brace and lack of understanding at certain pressures. And some horses still, when they're overwhelmed with pressure, will still go up and panic. So, on the ground, you'll be making sure you do a lot of backing, and, if you can get long reins on them and get them to sort of move in between the long reins, back up, steer, put those, every direction becomes nice and soft, left, right, backing up, all that sort of stuff, and your horse is not fighting and feeling uncomfortable with pressures, and your horse can move softly in the reins and stuff like that. And you've got to do a lot of that and treat like any horse that shows, big reactions and there's certain lack of education there. You have to put education as the key. And once your horse is more educated and soft, you're going to get more confidence in wanting to get on. But in the actual getting on process is, if you think your horse is tired or has become reactive after you've had a buster, stuff like that, then you might sort of want to sort of gradually work on getting your horse softer at the getting on process, and you have some more sort of checks that if the horse is ready to be sat on. So some things I do is I get the horse kind of leading around me softly, nice and close. I pull on the saddle while it's walking, all that sort of thing. And on a mounting block, I can walk it softly. I can send it out on a long lead on the mounting block, bring it back, and I can walk past on both sides. It's not frightened while I'm pulling on the saddle. I can even handle it all over with the flag while I'm on the mounting block. I can back it up, ask it to go forward, back it up, ask it to go forward. There's no problems, no resistance. If I was pulling on the saddle all the way, as it worked all the way around me, there's no bother about that. So it's handling me on both eyes, my weight, if I lean over it, all that sort of stuff. And then if you're agile enough, what I'd like to do is I actually step on them, step up beside them, lean over them, and I just ask them to bend and walk around me a little bit on one side and then the other. So if they were potentially very tight, what would happen was they, the first step they might just scoot away or hump up or something like that. But you've sort of felt them walk softly beside you as you're standing in the stirrup. And if anything goes wrong, you just quickly step off and just go through the process again. But that's the sort of things I'd be doing. And then the other thing is, if you get better at leading, you can take your horse out into different places leading and expose them a little bit. But you want some good soft riding happening in a safe place that your horse can be under a bit of pressure too. So the next thing I think you want to think about is, instead of getting into a situation where your horse is going to get a big fright, put it under pressure in a more calm environment. So, it's got to be able to be trotted up and come back soft and follow the reins at a trot, tight turn here, back up here. And it can understand the pressures and follow the feel quite well, but also quite well under a bit more pressure. At least if you're going to go out on a trail ride with it or something like that, you want to know you'll be able to push it up the canter, you've brought it back, and the horse is comfortable and not anxious about all the things that you're asking it, or the majority of things you need to sort of get by, like the basic backup, steering and that sort of thing, the acceleration. So, all that has to be worked on. And, yeah, it's not easy because everything takes time and you're always, education, there's no quick fix. It's just all education.
Okay, thank you. So the next question from Ashley is all about helping a horse to play nice. So Ashley has recently purchased a pony for her 9-year-old daughter. The pony is extremely merry, and when she comes near any other horse, she approaches them nose curled, ears pinned, squeal and strike, and then she'll try to spin and kick them. So Ashley's been ponying her of her quiet gelding, and she has improved with him a little, but she will still try to bite him if given the chance, and probably kick him, she thinks, as well. So Ashley has her paddock alone, but she can see and talk to others over the fence. She has her on supplements, but she thinks this is a learned behaviour, and she imagines that she's possibly defensive from being bottom of the pecking order in previous homes. Do you have any suggestions on how we can get her to play nice with others?
Yeah, the hardest thing with those horses is if you were leading her, by the time she's spun around and kicked in a natural herd environment, if the other horse was a bit nervous of it, they could have already walked away by then and got away from it. So in human situations with other horses on lead ropes or riding horses, they're not going to get out of a bubble. When she said, "Can you get out of my bubble? I'm very uncomfortable. My bubble's very big." So basically, you're right, probably to say that she's, defensive because of her lack of confidence from previous herds of being at the bottom of the pecking order. And sometimes you have to, instead of having on a fence with other horses, have her in with other horses to let her cope with that, having other horses around. And then what you want to look at is how comfortable is she with education, because some horses, their worry cup's half full all the time when we've got them, and the reason they feel more protective or defensive, I should say, with other horses is when we've got them is because they feel a little bit constricted around us, so they're over anxious with other horses and overprotective. So if the horse is soft with our education and they're good with us and all our things, then they're not carrying a lot of anxiety. So it's not so heightened anxiety causes bigger boundaries and more defensiveness on some horses. So you've got to look at all the things that you're doing with her, and is she okay with that, or she's slightly shut down around people and then she explodes when she's around horses. All those things have to be addressed as well to really sort of sort the matter out if you're going to be thorough about it. So, the connection she has around people, the safety she feels, how comfortable she is with the pressure, the transitions, following a rein, all those things. Chances are, I reckon there's a few holes in there and anxiety there, and then add that with a group of horses and as I say, they become super sensitive. So if you're able in education to make her feel good enough that she's comfortable around people, then the emotions aren't as strong around the other horses. The next thing is you have to teach her to let go of strong thoughts. So she's probably got used to being one of those ponies that holds on to her thoughts and kind of goes where people want her to go, but she never quite sort of changes her thought completely. So if she's backing up, she's probably thinking forward, still just backing up her feet, not backing up properly and stuff like that. That's just an example. So when you turn, when you get her attention, when you do anything with her, you have to have seen a clear change of thought. So she's reset herself after you've got her attention or got her to let go of something. If she hasn't, then basically your chance of getting her to let go of a really strong thought when she wants to go towards another horse is it's basically non-existent. So everything you do has to involve her changing her thought and thinking about something else. So if you're going in a straight line and she starts to think right, you pick up the left rein. You've seen her let go of that right thought and follow the rein left, and because of that, she's thinking in a new direction and she's not thinking back where she was. So everything you do has to have a clear change of thought. And then when her brain is in a way, or her brain works in a way with education, that it means that you pick up a feel, she follows the feel, she's let go of those hard thoughts. then you have a tool to say, I see that horse over there is worrying you. I'm going to take you away a little bit, and she lets go of that thought. So the thing that you can help her with is when she's around other horses is show her that she can move away from that other horse before she gets into conflict. So show her how to just move away so she knows that away is safe and she can go away, and teach her to move away from that other horse and go somewhere else and then come back and move away from that other horse. Any horses that get defensive towards people or feel like they're backed into corners and they get aggressive to other horses, all that sort of thing, you have to show them that the back door's open. If the back door's open, they'll make much clearer. They'll make, instead of super spontaneous aggressive decisions, they'll make more, I will say an educated decision, but a more thoughtful decision, because they know that escape is available, so I don't have to be as defensive. Because sometimes when they're trapped in a rider, because they're feeling trapped and they're around people, they constantly feel a bit trapped. So they always go on the defensive with other horses, because it's like they're backed in the corner because we're with them. So emotionally, they're going to go at the other horse instead of go, well, I might just step away over here. So we can be the ones that sometimes say, actually, don't go near the other horse, let's come over here. As long as you've got good education, it actually is good at getting her to let go of those strong thoughts. So then once she knows she can go away, then you can slowly introduce her back to the other horses a little bit, knowing that if she escalates, you can say, not like that, come away, we'll just go somewhere else while you like that. So she learns to thoughtfully come in towards those other horses. And you just got to gently wean her into it with graded exposure. And also sometimes just being out again with the paddock with other horses, see how she goes. And you don't overwhelm her too often when she's anxious with other horses. And most horses that blow up on trail that I've seen with other horses are actually, hovering in this kind of anxious state when they're not even with the other horses.
So that's really interesting. So even just look for signs of tension, anxiousness when you're leading her, because it could be that she's actually just really uncomfortable and feels like a trap in that lead. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
No, for sure.
Okay. All right. We're going to go on to the next question, which is the last one for this section, which is from Beck. And she has a horse that has been desensitized, and she's been opening him up and removing some of the braces at your clinics. But now it's really obvious that he's got big issues with a racket moving around his head and hindquarters, and hates the ball bouncing near him. Heaven forbid it actually bounces up and touches him. So she knows that he's really wary of people carrying rackets around him, and big issues with people on the ground passing the ball with the racket towards him. What she wants to know is, how does she start to get him past this? So tipping out the worry until he softens. You've got a video on that. But how does she, and in the video you're doing it with a saddle blanket, but is it the same? She's saying with the ball and the racket, considering that the ball and the racket will be moving and bouncing around him. And then how does she transition this to under saddle? She also comments that he has issues when she suddenly scratches her head or grabs her hat when riding. On the positive side, and I love this bit, he's getting really good at thinking his way through scary situations. He investigates them instead of freezing and running. He does a big snort, and he snorts at things and then moves towards them to check them out. So I think that's great. But let's hear your thoughts, Mark.
Yeah, it's a good job. You kind of feel like sometimes you made things worse to make things better, and that's so important. On the last clinic, I had a few horses much like your little fella. One was a little Brumby, and he was very shut down. Just felt like he was a super quiet horse, but not a lot of expression, and his movement was clumpy, and he had the same responses I remember from when I saw your horse. And one of the things we had to sensitise him to was the girthing, because he was just too dull in the girth. And she said, well, he's been through 3 homes and there's different stories, but when you pull the girth up on him, he bucks. He has bucked in a saddle, but then he was educated again. And I thought, yeah, I can have a feeling that. And I said to her, trying to listen to him is like, if you didn't know Chinese, trying to read a Chinese phone book, you'd be like, you were kind of lost. So we had to get him awake and aware. So I did some belly rope lessons. And I actually made him a little frightened of the belly rope by sensitising him to it and really showing him he had something on his belly. So then we could teach him how to accept a girth again in a better way and be responsive. But when he opened up, you could see him move completely differently. He moved flowing and soft. And I remember your horse in particular had hard movement and really choppy in the stops. He'd stop and then he'd go and stop and go and all that choppy movement. So it's really good that he's open and searching, because you have a much softer flowing horse. And now he's going to tell you everything that he's scared of, so you can work on him. And that's where the polo racket and all that's going to sort of, be the things that you're going to sort of teach him to understand, not just flood him with it till he just goes, I've got to accept it, but I don't like it. So use the polo racket as a handling flag, in a sense, as, you just have it in your hand. You get him, to come towards it at a distance, like at, maybe whatever distance you think's acceptable that he can cope with it. You kind of swing it around, get really big with it, show him what it looks like when it's really big, but it's not coming towards him. And then you just teach him to follow the racket, and then teach him to lead around you while you're moving the racket. And then slowly but surely, it's like you have your hobbles on and you let your horse work out there until he can come in under the racket and you can handle him over with it, much like you'd handle him, like you said, the saddle blanket lesson. I've got a saddle blanket, follow the feel. I've got a saddle blanket, follow the feel, soften. I see you can soften, follow the feel while I've got a saddle blanket in my hand. That'll be the same thing with the polo racket until you can the polo cross racket, until you can sort of handle him right over the haunches, underneath him, and you can come in and out with the polo racket and have him on both sides and get him super comfortable at following that inside rein and seeing the polo cross racket on the inside and then on the other inside rein. And then when you start to ride him with it, I ride cross-handed, which is a bit funny, but it means I can ride with my right hand on the left rein, crossed over like this, and my left hand on what I'm trying to get my horse used to. So you'll have the polo cross racket in your left hand and the left rein in your right hand, so you can steer him to the left while you're playing with that racket, and then you swap hands and you're steering him. So he's steering into that side, and when he's comfortable seeing it on one eye and then the other eye, then you can start to straighten him out and just have that racket while he's in a straight line and start to swoosh it around, and then on the other eye. And then eventually, once he's done that on both sides, you'll just start to steer him off so the racket is on his outside eye and he's okay with it, and then steer him back into it. If he gets a little fright, you can always quickly swap hands over, steer him back into the racket again and just wean him off again and go straight and then steer him away from it. And soon enough, that'll and once the racket's working, then you can play with the ball more. So, on the ground, you can start just hitting the ball around, just bouncing it a bit, just do stuff with it while you're just working him so he's exposed to it, and then ride him and just gently have it in the racket and just roll the ball away, let him follow it like he's chasing a beast, and then just pick it up, roll it away so he gets a bit of encouragement for chasing that ball, and, it's like something he can follow. Don't bring the ball at him too much, let him control it a little bit by you following the ball, and then you push it along and follow it again and push it along. Just like much the same as when they follow bouncy balls, or, as I say, when they start to rate cattle and stuff.
Brilliant. I quite enjoyed listening to all of that, Mark. I enjoy listening to all of your answers, but that was some new stuff in that, and I liked it. Thank you very much. We'll leave it for there, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, thank you.
You can learn more from Mark online through his online training videos. Just search Mark Langley Horsemanship. There's over 380 training videos which everyone has access to with a 7-day free trial. If you like what you see, it's just $15 a month from there. That's help where you need it.